So let's switch out now to my CRM. And the first thing that I'm going to do is look at my production CRM. So here's mageniumsolutions.crm.dynamics.com. It's in the cloud. And the reason you might have been, I hope it wasn't too distracting with my alerts coming up from Outlook, but the reason I had Outlook open is that I want to show you how this worked. So if I'm in my inbox here, you can kind of see a mix of the incoming emails. Some of them are tracked. So I've got some settings set up so that if somebody responds, get an email back from Aaron, and that's tracked in CRM. But the scenario that I want to go through here, so I've got the Outlook client for CRM running. I'm going to go to my webinar examples folder. And my colleague Ryan Hammer from Marketo sent me an email a couple of days ago. And here's a real common scenario. This is something that I do. This is a day in the life demo in a sense. And it's download pictures. So there's another open for the Marketo email blast that went out. Okay, so here's the from. So it's from Ryan Hammer. I right-click that, and let's look up the Outlook contact. Never added Ryan before, so I'll go ahead and add him. Right-click, add to Outlook contacts, and it pops open so here's the Outlook contact form. So the question is, how do these fields map? When I promote this thing up to CRM, how do I know what happens to these fields and how they correspond to the fields in CRM? We'll look at that reference that I gave you a minute ago. It's a good reference for that. I would do what? Set parent. So let's go do a lookup against account and see if I've got Marketo already as an account. So now I'm just doing the lookup against accounts in CRM. So those are my CRM records. So there's Marketo. And what I'm going to do is put a little bit of text in the notes field right here. Call it CRM. And then let's do a save and close. Now, a couple of things happened there. It's pretty quick, and that's the idea. It's pretty easy. But I created a CRM contact record because I did that set parent. So that's been promoted up to CRM. It's a synchronized contact record. And now, if I right-click and look up the Outlook contact, I can see that here it's tracked in Dynamics CRM. There's the parent. But because I put this little chunk of text in there, a workflow can run on the creative end of the contact and do something interesting with that record. For instance, tag Ryan to be included in my email distribution list. Now, let's go take a quick look at that reference that I gave you on the slide deck. Let's get that on the clipboard. 1 second. That's a pretty good reference. I thought that link was clickable, but it is not. Go to a browser, open up a new tab. Here's that article, CRM Outlook Field Mappings. This is one of those things that you don't need to know all the time, but if you ever do need to know it, it's helpful not to have to go experiment with it. So here are the fields in Outlook. Here's how they map to CRM fields by record type. So there's tasks, appointments, contact is what we're interested in now. And if you scroll down here far enough, you would eventually find somewhere in here there's a mapping. Here we are. The description field in CRM maps to the notes field that body on the contact record in Outlook. So now let's go see what happened in CRM. So here we are in CRM. I'll go to the web client just to make it so that it's obvious that this isn't an Outlook client anymore. So I go to Sales, and let's go to Contacts. and I'll search for Ryan. And let's go to Marketo. Let's see if Ryan's in here yet. Oh, of course not. Let's do this again. Let's go to look up the Outlook contact. And let's see if we have the view record in CRM yet. It's not up there yet. So we need to probably synchronize, huh? Of course, it would be the... I didn't hit the interval right, the 15-minute sync interval. So let's pick somebody who's already synchronized up there. Let's see if Craig Klein is up there. I think I did this one earlier in the day, so let's verify this. Yeah, so here you can see that Craig Klein is already synchronized up because it's loading the CRM form directly. So here's one I did earlier in the day. Let's take a look at this one. So I promoted Craig Klein, and notice we've got that CRM text in the description field. So there's your mapping, and notice further that this interest area that I use to drive my single-purpose email marketing efforts, Dynamics CRM, has been set. And if I scroll down here and look at the workflows that have been run against this record, here's this update contact marketing fields workflow that says it succeeded, and it ran. You can see it ran today. So if I open this up, let's see what this thing does. So basically, this is a pretty simple workflow. It's an automatic workflow that runs whenever a new contact record is created, and it checks to see if the description contains CRM. Then it updates the contact record, and what it updates is that interest area field. So this is a simple little thing, but it illustrates an important point, which is that there's lots of different sources of information. So it does that right there. So now he's going to be in the marketing list. So it illustrates that there's more than one way to get information into your CRM database, and just because it's coming from outside doesn't mean you can't do some interesting things with a workflow when that happens. Okay, so what I want to do now, let's go back to this deck for a minute, show you what I'll show you next, because I'm going to work in a different, this has been in my production CRM, but now I want to work in a slightly different place. So what I want to show here is this triggering of automatic workflows. So I'm going to go into a demo database and show you the difference between a workflow that might run for everybody with a scope of organization, cause it to run for everybody in organization, or something that's scoped more to the business unit if you want it to run only for specific scenarios. So let's go out now to desktop, close out of here. And I want to sign out. And most of the rest of the way we will be in a demo organization, and I'll close Outlook so we don't get the alerts now. So what I want to do here is navigate to this thing. So you don't have to watch me type. I'm just going to drop that in there. And I'm going to sign in with this set of credentials. So I am a system administrator here. Once I'm in this CRM organization. So this is not my production. This is a demo. I'm a system administrator, just to sort of show you the scenario here. Let's look at users. And got a relatively small number of users, so it's easy to keep track of what's going on. Here I am as Richard, and if you look at my role, I'm system administrator, and I am in the root business unit for this organization. I've got another person, Rooster, my Rooster sales manager persona in a child business unit. That's the West business unit. So what I want to show you here is if we look at the processes, these are now processes. This is all Chapter 3 processes, not the test one. I'll deactivate that one. And let's just look at activated processes for now. So I've got a couple of sales processes that both run automatically when an opportunity record is created. One's called the gated sales process and one's called the manual sales process. I'll show you those in the next demo. We're going to drill down on these more, but let's look at each of them in turn. They're both active. If I load this thing, notice it's got a scope of business unit and it runs automatically when a record is created. And notice that the owner is my current persona. So here's my system administrator owner at the root business unit. And then let's look at the manual sales process. So notice that this has a scope of business unit and it runs automatically when a new opportunity record is created. There's the entity. But this one is owned by a different person. This is owned by Rooster, who's in that child business unit, remember. So manual sales process, gated sales process, both have the same scope. They're both scoped to the business unit, but they're each owned by users in different business units. So here's the point. Which one of these is going to run when I create a new opportunity record? Well, if I click New Opportunity, they're both automatic, and if they both had a scope of organization, we might have some dueling workflows problems, but they don't. So I'll call this Big New Deal, and I'll make this for the basic company, just going up against the sample data set. We'll come back to these opportunity types and some other things in the next demo, but for now let's just create a $5,000 opportunity with a 12/1. Let's make it more interesting. There, so $500,000 opportunity. So with the estimated close date of 12/1, and I click Save. And if you do this enough, you can get good at vamping just long enough so that by the time you scroll down to the Workflows tab here and click on it, you will see the thing. Notice it says Waiting for Resources, and now if I refresh it, it'll probably say Waiting. So I've got two automatic workflows that got triggered, and notice that I've got this overdue opportunity one. We'll look at that in a little bit. But of those two sales processes, the only one that was triggered is this one, right? And that's because, why? That's because it has, remember the scope of the gated sales process is business unit. So this workflow is only going to be triggered when a user creates an opportunity and the user's in the same business unit as the owner of the workflow, is this user here. And you can see that. Another good way to see that is if I go to, let's sign out, and we'll sign in with my different persona. We'll sign in here as Rooster, but don't need to type it. So same organization, different user. This user is in the root. There we go. This user is in a different business unit, in the West business unit. And if I look at this guy, let's go look at Rooster, see what role he's got. So here's Rooster. If I look at his roles, you can see he's a sales manager in the West business unit. This person is not a system administrator. So if I go, let's go look at processes again so we see what's going to happen here. Notice my processes, this manual sales process is something that was assigned to me. So now if I go create a new opportunity record, what do we expect to happen? Call this Q4 deal, and the potential customer, maybe this one is going to be Magenium. And this is a type 3 opportunity, 100,000, and this is also close in December. So which of these workflows is going to get triggered? Remember, it's an automatic workflow, so it's triggered when the record's created. Minimize the ribbon here, give us a little bit more room. Click on workflows. Notice that overdue opportunity runs for both, but for this user, only the manual sales process workflow runs because, well, I'm in the same business unit as myself by definition. So that's an interesting application of that. Now notice also that this workflow is going to be running as me. Right? What does this workflow do? We're going to drill down on these more in a minute, but here's a quick peek. This is a staged workflow, and there's something special about workflows with stages when it comes to sales processes. We'll talk about that in a minute. So here we are in the qualify stage, and you can see what happened. The workflow runs automatically when the record's created. It checks to see if that process code is equal to qualify. Then if it is, it updates the opportunity record with some values, maybe appropriate for that stage, so 25%. And then it goes into a wait to see what the user does. So now it's just going to sit here and wait until the user selects a different sales stage, and there's a option set, pick list drop down. So this is what I would refer to as a kind of a manual sales process. It's driven by the user's selection of a pick list value. But the key point here is that this is only going to run for people in this business unit, right? Because this workflow is owned by somebody that's in the West business unit. Now, interestingly, suppose I'm the system administrator and I create a workflow like this. And so when you create a record, you're the owner of it. The way workflows work is you can't activate a workflow that you're not the owner of, even if you're the system administrator. So when I created this workflow as the system administrator, then I assigned it to the sales manager in the West business unit because I only want it to run. It's a process that they use, right? Well, I can assign it to him, but I can't activate it at that point. It's kind of an interesting thing. So it's a little bit of a gotcha. So the sales manager, in this case Rooster, would have to come in as a one-time thing and activate that workflow. One other point that I'll make quickly now, and then we'll revisit this in a little bit. If I deactivate this, so the workflow process, what this means is it won't run on any new opportunities created right now, but deactivating it doesn't have any impact on any running instances of the workflow. So if I go back to the opportunities grid here and look at the thing that we just created. So here's my Q1 deal. Or no, this is Q4 deal is the one that I just created. If I open this up and scroll down and look at the workflow, I'm going to look at the manual sales process. Notice it's still waiting. So the fact that I deactivated that workflow doesn't impact this thing. It still sits here and runs. And this is actually a pretty good view. Here's another worthwhile trick to know. If you're monitoring a workflow, if you're looking at the actual job that's running here, you come in here to look at it, you can open this up, and if you've got the coordination to do this, there, I got past that fly out on the new button there, print preview. This is actually a pretty good view right here of, if you're trying to communicate to somebody how a process works. Now, obviously, Visio is a little bit more graphical than this, but this is not a bad way to communicate a process to somebody. This is one of the more kind of consumable views of a, relatively complex staged process here, is this kind of print preview. So then I can print it and you get some mileage out of that. So that's not a bad thing to know about. Okay, so what I want to do now is let's jump back to the deck. And what I want to do before we dive into the conditional logic and the topics that we're going to talk about in the next section, I'm going to check the Q&A grid. Nope, I don't see any questions there. And this is the part where I want to, I'm going to save off the Camtasia recording. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take let's say 5 minutes. It's 1:41. I'll start up right at 1:45 again. So if you want to get up and stretch your legs, feel free. And I will start right up at 1:45. But let me save this off, and I'll be right back.